Welcome to the My Creative Days podcast, where we will talk about all things DIY, home decor, decorating tips, and creating a beautiful home on a budget. I am hoping our time together will spark a creative idea, help you plan your next DIY, or inspire you to finally tackle that project you keep putting off. Grab your favorite cup of motivation and let's chat. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have a special guest with me. Matt is here, my husband, to answer some of the questions that we get a lot, and I thought I'd bring him on the podcast. He's trying this for the first time. You should see the way we're sitting right now. We're like huddled together, trying to get this microphone situated. So hopefully this goes okay. Fingers crossed. We both listen to podcasts. We like some of the same podcasts, some of the different podcasts. So he knows what podcasting is, but he's never been on one. So I'm hoping we can get through some of these questions and tell you a little bit about our story. So do you want to start off with the story? Or do you want
like
me
how
to
we met, or
no?
About me?
Yeah, I think a little bit about our story and DIY and do you want me to do that, or do you want to do that?
Oh, go ahead. All you.
It's usually all, yeah, I usually talk more than he does. So basically when I first met Matt, he grew up in a household where sports were life. Matt's dad didn't do a lot of handiwork, any DIY. It was sports, and that's pretty much what
Vacations were geared around sports events.
And yeah, it was all about sports. So I grew up in a household where my dad was in construction for as long as I know. He was building homes. He was, doing all kinds of projects, decks and, anything he could with building and tools. So when I first met Matt, and not first what met Matt, it was a while into it, but my dad would help us do projects. And the first couple of times my dad said to me, he does not even know how to hold a hammer right. And I thought, is there a way to hold a hammer wrong? And so he was kind of showing me. And so it made more sense. Matt had no idea. So Matt was just trying to do what he knew. And so over the years, my dad has helped us. In our first home, my dad helped us with a ton of projects. Did I say my first home? Or did I say our first home? It was our first home right after we got married. And in our home now, my dad again helped us with a lot of the makeover and the projects, but Matt just started learning more and more. He started out as just being the, what would you call it?
Demolition man.
Demolition man, or the
laborer.
The laborer for the things that he could do. So if my dad needed a supply or a tool, Matt would hand it to him. Or if we had to go pick up certain things, if we had the list, Matt could get those things. But over the years in this house that we're in now, Matt's just learned a lot. And then my dad used to flip houses as well. And we were, again, the laborers, if that's what you want to call it. And we would help him throughout those flip houses, doing the things that we could do, painting, cleaning, like Matt said, demoing. What else could we do that were like easy things?
Paint.
I said painting. Yep. Yard work, those kinds of, yeah.
Cleaning up his mess after.
Yes.
So he came the next day with a clean project.
Yes, that was important to him. So, that's how we started. And then it got to the point where my dad couldn't do a lot of projects and he couldn't do a lot of the work. So Matt, learning stuff with my dad, just started taking on more of those projects and learning how to use tools and all those things. And then my dad quit flipping houses just because he couldn't do them anymore. And Matt and I just said, why don't we do this ourselves? We know how to do it. We know the buying process, the selling process, we can know the work. My dad still came through every flip house we've ever done with us just because we wanted his eye too, just to help us, this is a good one, this is a bad one. Or if you could get get this one for this price, he could kind of lead us through that. So now Matt and I have flipped, I always question, is it five properties on our own. We're super excited and proud about that. And we would love to flip more. We are always looking for new flip projects, but that's kind of our DIY journey. And I love that journey because we learned by doing, totally by doing. Matt didn't even know how to swing a hammer right. I grew up with a dad, in construction, but I wasn't, I used to organize his screws and nails. I thought that was the funnest thing to do. And I would go down in his cabinets and I would organize them all. And, but that was really the gist of it. I would go to projects, houses and stuff with him, when he had to have us go with him. But other than that, Matt and I really learned all of our DIY from doing. So
let me clarify the hammer story.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, your dad got me a tool box or a box of tools, like our third year together.
Okay.
And in there was like an 8 or a 10 ounce hammer. He had a 16. So, of course, he was going to be able to drive that nail in quicker and harder because he had a bigger size hammer, and I didn't know that. So,
would he agree with that story?
He might. He might.
So he wouldn't say you're just tink, tink, tink.
Well, I was tinkering it, but it was a smaller hammer, so that doesn't count.
So my dad, he used to be on roofs, and he would me watching my dad over the years, it was like 1, 2, 3 smacks of, a nail with a hammer, and it was in. And then Matt was like 8, 10, 12.
I'd keep it straight.
It would take him that long to get it in. So we can laugh about it now because it's part of our journey, and we wouldn't be where we are today without it. So, good. I'm glad you clarified that.
I know.
So I guess a question I would ask you then is, I have this kind of on our list. What would you tell someone who doesn't even know how to hold a hammer, but wants to start doing some DIY? What would you tell them?
Just be confident. It is pretty easy to do. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy to do, but the more you do it, the more you learn, the more it'll come natural to you. So don't be afraid to start with smaller projects, fixing dressers, just small little projects around the house, and then you can grow.
Yeah. And we've done so many little tiny projects, and now, we're flipping, entire houses. But yeah, I would say that too. And even if you don't have a father-in-law or there's so many, you can watch YouTube and websites and blogs. Head to mycreativedays.com. There's tons of things on there. On my YouTube channel, we share, Matt's been in tons of those videos, the blog posts, I share all of our projects with you. Our flip houses, they're all on that. They're across all my channels. So, but definitely look online because you can learn a lot.
You can also go ask questions to the people who are selling you the different products.
Like what? What do you mean?
Like paint stripper and stuff like that, because we didn't know a lot about it, so we had to learn all that stuff.
Yes, he keeps looking away, and I'm like, keep your face towards the microphone so that people can hear you. Yes, so when you're at, if you're getting paint stripper or paint or brushes, ask your home improvement stores.
Even plumbing supplies.
Yeah.
They know all that information. That's kind of their job. So
right.
Ask them.
Yes. So, do ask them. That is a free knowledge that you can take advantage of. Okay. I'm just going to kind of go through some of these questions. Let me see. What do you like most about DIYing?
I like being creative. I like kind of taking a dresser and putting a different touch on it or making something else works.
So you're saying you like to, not just a dresser, but you like to
figure things out.
Yes. I would say that is his favorite thing. So what usually happens is I will come up with an idea, or I'll see something in a store, right?
Yes.
And then I will say, Matt, I think, instead of spending $600 on this, couldn't we do this? And so I will give him the photo, or I will show it to him, and he will literally, he thinks about it. He kind of figures out and I think, and then being out in the garage working, with his tools and everything, I think that's his favorite part about it, right?
Yes.
Would you say about a DIY project? Is it you're trying to figure out how to get that look for less?
Yes.
Would you say? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Would you say that's what it is?
One of the reasons, yeah.
Okay, what's another reason?
You can't put me on the spot like that.
If you think of another favorite thing about DIYing, let me know. Okay, we can come back to that. Okay, what do you dislike about DIYing? Is there something that you're just not, it could be a project, or is there something?
Yeah, every now and then there are projects that just don't go your way. So you get so frustrated and upset, but at that point you sometimes got to walk away, regroup and rethink it. because there are some frustrating things out there, and it'll get us.
I'm gonna come to kind of, we're gonna talk about that a little bit more, but sometimes I think for me with DIY, I'm always looking for ways to get the look for less, but sometimes you're just like, ugh, this is gonna take forever, and some projects do, take, instead of saving them. What were you gonna say?
Some of the simplest projects end up to be the longest.
Yes, we've had so many projects where, Matt will say, okay, I'm going to go out and let's go ahead and do that, whatever it is I showed him. It'll be 30 minutes max, and we'll be out there 3 hours later. It's always the simplest projects that take the longest. But in the end, it's always worth it. But sometimes you just want to get it done. Okay, what has been one of your favorite parts of, some of these were sent in to me.
Oh.
So, what has been one of your favorite parts of learning tools, DIY, on your own? Do you think that, okay, I think learning it on his own, where he didn't like go to school or take classes or my dad taught him what he knew, but I think Matt has figured out ways to do things that I don't think he would have learned from a book or in a class. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you kind of got to do it, and then you learn how to do it. You make a bench the first time, then the second time you kind of know what to do, what you're doing. You can knock it off a lot quicker.
And you know what didn't work,
Yes.
so you'll get it together the first time, and then like he said, so he will say, he'll get something done and he'll say, okay, if we ever do this again, I know I'm not going to do that, but this I know I'm going to do. So I just think getting his hands dirty and learning that way has really helped him. I think being creative in your DIY muscles is like any other muscle. The more you work it and the more you know what I'm saying? The more that you work it, the better it gets. And I just think that it's just been an amazing thing for him to learn it that way. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? He's a man of little words.
I try.
Okay, let's get over here. Okay, do you really like shopping and picking up, projects and things, even on vacation? People want to know this.
Absolutely. Yes, I do. I was, I think, born to shop. My family always did the Black Friday thing, and that was like the most exciting time of the year. So everywhere we went on vacation, everything like that, we always went to a mall, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. High school, college, I would thrift. I would go to garage sales. So yeah, I've always loved picking things up and just loved it.
Yeah. So
yes, I love it.
So when people will see me on Instagram sharing, Matt's going shopping, or I will say something like, Matt is the husband that will tell me to buy it. Get it, buy it, get it. Oh yeah, you should just get it. Where some people will say, I've got to hide all my purchases from my husband. Matt is the total opposite. So he's the spender in the relationship. I'm the saver.
I get excited to see the packages at the front door coming.
He does. Oh my goodness.
Just hoping it's for me.
It's so true. And he's a few years older than me. How many years? 5.5.
No, 5 and 2 months.
5 and 2 months and 3 months older than me. So when I heard that he, in college and stuff, I met him he was out of college. I was in college when I met him, but he was thrifting with his friends and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, you just, back then, I think now it's getting more, trendy and popular and cooler to go to thrift stores and yard sales and all that. But back then I was like, oh my goodness, I grew up at thrift stores and yard sales. That's what my mom. Did your parents ever take you to a thrift store?
No.
Never?
No.
And he did grow up, we should say that, in a real small town.
Real small town.
How big? How many?
I think when I was there, it was like 700-800. Now it's down like 550.
And we live in a city that has how many?
250,000.
Okay. So there's a big difference. So there weren't thrift stores and things really back then. Mm-mm. But anyway, I grew up in thrift stores and yard sales. So it was just, and I didn't love it back then. Now I thoroughly enjoy it. So to find somebody that did that through college and stuff, I thought that was pretty cool. What are okay, next question. This is a good one. What are 5 tools you could not live without? I don't think he loves these questions. It's
my favorite tools, or tools that you absolutely need, like a tape measure and stuff like that.
Let's go with what you to do.
My favorite tools.
Okay, we'll do that. That's fine. Just lean a little. There we go.
I love my miter saw.
Okay.
I love the fact that it's like a sliding blade, so you can cut a bigger board. I love my multi-tool.
What's a multi-tool? If somebody didn't know.
What does it have? You can put a sander on the end of it. You can put like a little cutter for metal, wood. Notches things out a little bit.
So that's an electric tool, right? So if somebody, or is it battery?
I have a battery powered one.
But you can get electric.
Yeah.
So it's a battery power. If you looked up multi-tool, they would know what that is. It's electric or battery.
Yeah. I have a wood screwdriver that I really,
oh my
really
gosh,
like.
You guys, this wood screwdriver.
Yeah.
And tell them why you love that wood screwdriver.
It's one of those screwdrivers that you can, it has different types of the bits in it, and it has one of the square bits, which not too many of those screwdrivers have. So it has a standard bit, the Phillips, and then the square one. So that's nice, and it's got a wood handle, and I like that.
Yes, and the square bit is really the seller for that. So most of them don't have that.
Yep.
2 more. Are we at 2? I think we need 2 more.
2 more. I love the old-fashioned rulers.
And yardsticks, you mean?
Yardsticks, yes, because you can draw them, you can do straight lines, plus you can measure it a little bit easier.
He's always picking those up. We have yardsticks for days. And we have actually repurposed yardsticks into a lot of projects. We've made dresser tops out of them. There's so many things you can do with yardsticks. So we're always picking those up at yard sales, the old ones especially.
Oh, and I love I have a utility knife that actually kind of fits on your belt, that kind of folds up and then has like an easy release to change the blade versus having to unscrew it and put a new one in.
A lot more convenient.
A lot more convenient. So those are some of my...
And you just said that you can wear it on your belt. Do you wear a tool belt when you're working on projects?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay, so I grew up, my dad, he never didn't. I mean, if he was working, he had a tool belt on all the time. And so did he buy you your first one?
Yes.
And, he just thought Matt needed one, but...
I have pockets, and I usually wear a hoodie that has a pouch. So I have plenty of pockets and a pouch.
And my dad, he is like a construction, person. So everything in your belt is so handy and organized. And so to have things just in pockets or a hoodie, like my dad never wore a hoodie, obviously, but he's just like, oh my gosh, he's like the amount of time it takes him to get something out of that hoodie or those pants pocket if he would just wear that belt.
Yeah, never got into that.
Okay. I thought this question is good. What part of projects do you and Lindsay work well on, like together on?
I'd say most of them actually. You trim, I roll. So we kind of know who does what and who's, your idea. I tell you what, yay or nay to what can we do, and we go from there. So we kind of work well on everything but pitching a tent.
We'll get into that here in just a second.
Yeah.
So we've kind of learned through the projects, throughout the years, where we are, what our strengths are, and we just gel together really well on all these projects because we have to, because they won't come together if we don't. And it's like I have the ideas and I have the, what would you say, like the decorating or design knowledge, or I don't know, whatever. And then he knows what we can do and what's possible and what's not. So it's so good. And then he knows the know-how of how to get that together. So it works out really well. Now let's talk about pitching a tent. So when Matt and I first started dating, we camped a lot. Like Matt was a huge tent camping. So we would spend weekends. We would have friends come with us and we would spend weekends in parks and going camping. And I don't know what it is about pitching a tent. Matt knows, because he says I do it wrong, which is probably true. I'm just trying to get the darn thing done. And I don't think it has like any...
There's a certain way. There is a certain way to roll that tent. That's the only way it's going to fit back in that bag.
Or to set it up, Yeah. So he's yelling at me like, the pole, do this with the pole. And I'm like, So that is one thing. We do not do well together at all. We kind of laugh about it now. We have not been camping since we've had kids.
Oh, we camp in backyards with them.
We've done that with it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Once we had the kids, it just wasn't as fun anymore. So, okay. Can you remember any projects or DIY things that didn't go well together? Pitching the tents. I mean, because that kind of goes, let me just go into,
I mean, there's a lot of projects that we've done that wasn't successful and we had to redo and we got upset. But it's not like we got upset at each other, frustrated with each other. I mean, I painted plenty of rooms and you not like the paint color and I didn't get upset. I just had to repaint the darn thing.
Okay.
So, no, I can't think of anything in the five
Just make sure you're looking at the microphone. Yes. I keep telling them, make sure you're facing the microphone so they can hear you. I love that he said that we've had so many projects go wrong. Because we'll be the first to tell you, they don't all go as planned. And there's many times we've had to scrap them. So it's not all rainbows and butterflies every time we do them. And the whole painting the walls, I've been there, you guys, picking out paint colors. I've learned a lot over the years. And one thing Matt is patient. Everybody that knows him knows that. And so there's been many times where I've just totally picked the wrong paint color. We've painted full rooms and then the next day I'm like, no, it's not going to work. And we've had to redo them. So, but I've learned many things. So we have not had to do that anymore because there's tips so that doesn't have to happen. But yeah, he's right about that. Okay. Oh, I thought this was a funny question. Are you okay with Lindsay using your tools?
Not at all. Not at all. I have a tool bag that has all my favorite tools, but the thing is I want that put back in a certain way because I want to know where those tools are. When we go to work on flip houses and projects, I don't want anybody touching my tool bags because then they leave it everywhere, and then I'm spending a half hour trying to find my tools, and I can't find them. So no, my tool bag is for me only.
So if you watch me on Facebook or Instagram, there have been a few lives when I'm like, ooh, I just need to go get one of his little tools out. And it's every time. So I'll do the whole live, I'll get the project done. And then after I'm done filming, I jump on the computer or something and then I'll forget that, if it's a razor blade or whatever it is that I'm using. And then he'll go down to get his tool bag and he'll say right away, who took the razor or who took I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to remember to put that away. But he's pretty particular about his tool bag. Yeah. We kind of just stay away from that.
Yes, please.
Okay. Do you have, when do you decide to ditch a DIY that's gone bad, since we were kind of talking about that?
I don't know if we've ever really ditched it. There's been a lot of times I walked away.
Okay.
And had to go back in and start over.
I think there's been a couple of projects we've done, like wood projects, especially where, not a couple, probably many, where we're like, this is just not worth it. It's not going to work. And then we burn the wood
But for the most part, we figure an alternative out, something different than what we were going to plan. So instead of scrapping it, we just took our plans back a little bit, make it a little bit easier.
And that's why I talk about a lot of times, if you've seen on my website, or I always say when you're DIYing anything, you have to have a plan A, B, C, and D at least, because it's never going to go exactly your plan A. So you just have to be flexible. And I agree with that. But I do think there are times when you just have to, it's just, you'll know when you get to that project and you're like, it's just not gonna, you keep trying all those plans or different ways and it's just not coming together. I mean, for your sanity, it's just better to walk away and scratch it and come up, just start a different project. Because those projects will come. They will come.
But for the most part, if we ever do that, then we will take that thing apart and keep, like, the hinges, keep the doorknobs, keep wood, like the top of the dresser. So we would keep it for parts instead of just get rid of it all for future projects.
That's very true. So we are upcycling and repurposing anything and everything we can. So he was just talking about furniture projects we're working on. So yeah, I'm talking about any,
Oh, that's the same thing too.
Yeah, it's on any, yes. So we will try to salvage. So if the project's not going to work, we will salvage whatever we can out of that project before we would, toss it or get rid of it. So, like he said, the hardware, the wood on it, the whatever it is. So yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about flipping houses?
I enjoy it. I like staying busy. I like the challenge of doing something different every time. I love the fact that we can go in, take a house that might be not very nice, kind of, and we make it a solid house for somebody. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we're cutting down walls, but we're making sure everything is safe, everything is sturdy, everything is correct,
clean,
and
just updated,
and make it look nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably my favorite part about it too. When we find these flip houses, the flip houses we've done, I mean, they're not in good condition at all. I mean, and not, like I said, we're not going to buy any that has foundation issues or anything like that, but I just mean they have not been taken care of at all. And so it's both of us, which people say, does Matt really like this stuff? He does. I'm not, I'm not lying. He really does. And we just to be able to take that, and it's just kind of like an ugly dresser or, a smaller DIY project, something you find on the curb, to be able to take it from, something that nobody's taking care of and turn it into something useful and beautiful and functional again. I think out of all of our projects, that's our favorite thing about. I think that's what keeps us going, right?
Yep.
And like he said, we like to be busy. I like to be creative. He likes to be creative. So it's just, it all just meshes well. Can you tell us, like a bad flip house experience, or I'm thinking right now too, like if somebody asked me that, what?
I'm
trying to think. One of our flip houses, oh my gosh, the amount of, I don't know. They had a lot of dogs. So the amount of, and they never cleaned up after them outside. So the amount of cleaning up we had to do in the backyard was unbelievable. But also at that house, we were able to experience owls had babies in the neighborhood, and all the babies, it was like 2 different nests. This is so crazy and so off topic, but the babies ended up in our backyard. It was the most, oh my gosh, it was so cool. It was so cool. Can you think of another?
I don't know. We've been very fortunate, I think, with the houses. I think we've kind of looked at the houses in and out, so I think we knew what we were getting into. I don't recall anything that was
really bad. I know. I'm trying to think too. I haven't gone over these questions, so I didn't have time to.
Your cousin fell through the ceiling.
Oh.
Working on the air condition, but that wasn't me. So.
Oh yeah, that was. But that's when we were
just his foot, not his whole body.
Yes, we were gutting our duplex because a coffee shop actually bought it, and so they were just tearing it down. So we went in, and everything that we had paid for and put into the duplex, we wanted to get out because it was just a shame for it to go to the landfill. So yeah, I guess that was. But again, it hasn't always been rainbows and butterflies.
No.
Blood, sweat, and tears went into each of these houses, and it's, something's taking longer, or you're having to wait for somebody else to get something done before you can continue, or, those kinds of things.
We've had some things not work. It just hasn't been devastating or overly.
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
If we're not going to bore you with trying to think about every house project we've done, or flip house, I'm sure we could come up with some other things. There's some other, odd things that have happened in flip houses. But okay, this last question for this podcast, Matt, this episode, we'll have to get him on. You guys will have to leave some more questions that you would like him to answer.
I would
he can help.
Glad to answer any sport questions.
Oh my goodness.
So
if you want any sports, advice, or you want to talk sports of any kind.
Fantasy football's coming up now.
Yes. Well, by the time this gets out, you will be full in fantasy football mode, because
that's true.
Oh my goodness. Anybody else have husbands that are fully into fantasy football? And now Landon, our son, he's more obsessed than Matt is. Oh my goodness. It's a whole season here. But kids and DIY, what do you think about that?
I think it's important, because I think it is important that they learn these at a younger age, so they know it. I didn't have that opportunity. So I was glad that your father kind of helped me through some of that and got me into it. But yeah, I think the kids should have small projects, and they're able to do it successfully, give them more and more.
Yeah, they're kind of, I feel like our kids have been through every flip house that we've ever done, and they will grunt and groan, but they love getting paid for the work that they do. So, and as they get older, they really want us to get more flip houses. But they're kind of like us. In the beginning, it was, okay, you're clean and, you can do these things. But now they can go in and do the demo. They can go in and paint. They can do a lot more than, initially when we first started out. And Matt has always said he wants them to learn all that stuff, because he never did. And it would have been really helpful for him, especially with what we're doing now, if he had learned that earlier on. So yeah, Matt, you did well for your first podcast interview. It's pretty harmless.
Yeah, not bad.
Okay, we are going to head off now, I guess. We're going to go work on some projects, actually. And thanks for listening. If you have any other questions for Matt or for me, obviously leave them. Let us know, and we'll get him back on here to do this again sometime soon. Okay, thanks, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I am grateful that you tune in every week and that you share the show with your family and friends. I love having creative chit chats with you, and my hope is that this podcast will inspire you to try a new project, start a DIY that you've been putting off, and decorate your home exactly how you want it. There are a few ways you can help us with the podcast. Follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you could take a few minutes to leave the podcast a review, that would help us so much. Again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to our chat next week.